Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Sunday. I hope the morning is going okay wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. As always, thank you very much for joining me. I say I hope the morning's going okay. I'm pretty sure it's not. I know you're feeling exactly like I'm feeling at the moment, and that is pretty disappointed because we lost the game yesterday. And it's a weird feeling, really weird feeling, because it's the feeling we've not had since I think September the 1st, since Dominic Szoboszlai scored that free kick against Arsenal way back when at Anfield, when Liverpool were actually winning games and were near the top of the table, which shows just how far away, how long ago that was that Arsenal last lost a game of football. And it's a weird feeling this morning. It really is. The whole drive home yesterday from Villa Park, it was a strange one. It was a strange one. I've grown so accustomed to leaving football matches having seen my team win rather than lose. But it is football. You lose games. I've said it so many times this season. Sat here, I've talked about it. I've said, look, there's going to be times when Arsenal are going to lose. There's going to be times when things aren't going to go Arsenal's way, when results are going against Arsenal, when momentum shifts, all that sort of stuff. That's going to happen in a season. You don't get league titles or anything like that handed to you. You've got to earn them. You've got to win them. You've got to battle through really sticky periods in a season. And at the moment, this is a little bit of a sticky patch for Arsenal. It's 3 games without a win away from home in the league. I think it's 2 wins in the last 5 games in the Premier League. They've seen their lead at the top cut, and they're going to have to come through it. They're going to have to battle on. They've got injuries, and they're affecting the team. Absolutely no doubt about that in really key areas, and they've just got to battle through it. They've got to go again, as Mikel Arteta said yesterday, and go on another run now, because it's been a great run. I think that was the first defeat in 19 games for Arsenal in all competitions. They're top of both leagues that they're competing in at the moment, so things are looking good. They're in a really good position, but this is a little bit of a tricky spell, and they're going to have to get through it. And I'm sure they will. I certainly hope they will. Anyway, we're going to talk about yesterday's game in today's show. I know I did my sort of immediate match reaction video yesterday from the press box at Villa Park, but we'll go over it a little bit more in depth today. Look at what a lot of you guys have been saying in relation to the result and the performance. We'll look at what Mikel's been saying as well. I will go through my player ratings again at the end if you didn't catch the show yesterday as well from the press box. So yeah, 2-1 Villa in the most painful of fashions. Last kick of the game. There's no better feeling in the world, as we've all experienced at different times, of scoring a last minute, a last second winner. It's just the ultimate in football, the ultimate buzz, the ultimate joy. But when you're on the wrong side of it, when you concede to the very last kick of the game, especially in a match of such intensity where, a draw would not have been a bad result at all, to lose it like that, it was so tough. I mean, fair play to Aston Villa at the end. Before I talk about Arsenal, just fair play to Aston Villa. It was a brilliant game. I thought it was a really good game. It was end to end. Either side could have won it, and had they whoever got on the right side of the result, you could justifiably say they deserved to win that game. If Arsenal had won it, I think you could easily say Arsenal deserved to win that game. It was Villa won it, and you can easily say that Villa deserved to win that game. It was just on a knife edge. Both teams were going for it. It was exciting. It was absorbing. The atmosphere was incredible, and fair play, Villa got the win. And it was a really, really seriously loud noise when that Buendia goal went in. I've heard a lot of loud roars in football. I have to say that was right up there when that ball hit the net. Villa Park exploded. It was utter joy for them, and it was utter devastation for Arsenal. You saw the sort of difference in emotions, the Villa players celebrating, and then the Arsenal players just lying on the floor, absolutely devastated, because they'd put such a shift in. They really, really had put a shift in. Whatever you sit in now and you look at the performance, and you can pick the bones out of all of that, and you can. But one thing you can't say about this Arsenal team was they didn't give their all yesterday at the end of what's been such a demanding 2 weeks for them. And they left it all on the line there yesterday. They were dead on their feet. They just came up short, and it was really, really a painful one. I mean, when you look at how that game panned out, and there's you can again pick the bones out of different sort of moments in the game. I think that last in injury time, you had the break when Arsenal went through. Declan Rice got down to the left and whipped the ball in, and Gyökeres was on his heels. I love my striker, absolutely, and I know he's coming back from injury, so he's not at his sharpest yet. But when you watch that incident, when Rice gets down the left and whips it in, there's only one place that ball is going to go, I'd love my striker 2 seconds before Rice crosses that ball in, or a second and a half. Whenever you see that move unfold, you've got to be sprinting to be up there level with him to expect that ball across. Just want to see my striker do that a little bit more. Gyökeres on his heels a little bit, I thought, for that incident. And then Madueke at the back post, could he have done better rather than just putting it in the side netting? Could have gone across the goalkeeper. Could he even have tried to take a touch and chop back in, and then maybe tried to find a Gyökeres or chop in on his left foot and get a shot away? In the end, it was kind of a nothing shot into the side netting. You know, it was a massive moment. You got a couple of minutes to go at that point. Could you get the last minute winner? But instead, the chance sort of goes begging straight up the other end, and Villa end up winning it themselves. And that's what I'm talking about, the sort of seesaw nature of that game, how either team could have gone on to win it. The breaks fell for Villa. You know, that mad scramble at the end could have gone anywhere, could have rebounded over to the right, to the left, outside the box, but oh no, it falls right into Buendia's path to be able to side foot it into the net. Again, you look at Arsenal, how they defended that in the initial action. Could Hincapié have cleared his lines? Absolutely. Did he need to put it out for a throw? And absolutely not. But there were a lot of stuff happened from that moment that Arsenal could have cleared the ball, could have, you know, it's hard. It's really hard to sort of sit here and just lay any sort of finger of blame on anyone for this one. It's just football. It is just football. It's why we love this game. It's why we hate this game at times. And, you know, we've had so many times when Arsenal come out on top with really sort of late winners and all things like that. And you love it. But of late, it's just not quite been going Arsenal's way. You look at it in Sunderland 3 games ago away from home, 2-1 up, seconds away from winning, concede a last-minute equaliser. And then at Villa, you concede a last-minute winner. As I said, difficult period for Arsenal. Difficult period. Just got to go again. Got to go again. I was worried going into this game yesterday that it just felt a little bit one game too far. I said this in my show yesterday in my immediate reaction video. Just after the 2-week period Arsenal have had without the real sort of, you know, your main centre backs in a game where you know it's going to be tough. Villa have lost 1 game in 32 or something at home, and that was against Arsenal last season. They're the most informed team in the country right now. They're the most informed team since March in the Premier League. When you look at points gained, you know, they are flying. Fair play to Unai Emery, fair play to the players. You know, they're such a tough teams to play against. They stretch you. It's intense. It's fast. It's chaos almost when you play an Aston Villa team, especially at Villa Park. And so it was always going to be tough for Arsenal. And I don't think they played badly at all. I think it was a really even game. I mean, you look at the stats here. It shows how even this game was. You know, Villa just about shading it on XG. And probably Buendia's goal tipped them over the edge in terms of the balance of XG when you look at the chance that was, you know, level on shots, 15 each. Arsenal had more on target. Arsenal had more possession. It was such a tight game that could have gone either way, but it went to Villa, and it was a painful one, no doubt about it. Mikel said losing in the manner that we did in the last kick of the game was very painful and disappointing. We put everything into the game to try and win it. We had spells when probably we weren't at our best, especially with the ball, and we put ourselves in trouble after regaining it. But after we generated a certain good momentum in the second half, we scored the goal. My feeling was we'd go on and win the game. So to lose it in that manner that we did is painful, especially for the players, because I know how much they put into it. Credit to Villa as well. They're a really good side. They keep you on the edge in the manner they play. It's a good test for us as well. We've been 18 games unbeaten, performing and winning almost every game. Now we have to hit that one. Now we have to go again. Every 3 days we have a game. So I'm sure we'll be ready. And I think that's such a key thing, isn't it? Arsenal do just have to go again now. You can't let this sort of spiral or anything like that. And I understand there's been an emotional response to it, because we all know how important it is for Arsenal. We all know how much we want this season to get over the line. And any sort of drop points, it becomes an emotional minefield, especially on social media. I've seen it in the sort of reaction to the game yesterday, and I do my best at the moment. I've said this before on this channel, especially this season. You know, I'm trying to, and it's hard because of what I do. Obviously, I need to be involved sort of online and on social media and see what people are saying. But I try after a result there where I know there's going to be a big sort of emotional reaction, I try to detach myself from it a little bit and just sort of assess it in my own way. I think at the moment, because I don't want to go down the rabbit hole that is social media after a defeat, because it really affects how I enjoy a season, I think. And, you know, there is just going to be bumps in the road. This is football. This is the Premier League. It's going to be really, really tough. If Arsenal are going to win the title this season, it's going to be so tough. You don't get it easy. It doesn't get handed to you. You've got to go out there and you've got to win it. You've got to stand up in really difficult moments. And this is the first probably little difficult moment that Arsenal have experienced this season. You just got to stand up and go again, as Mikel Arteta said. There's nothing else you can do. It's Wolves next weekend in the Premier League. Yes, you've got the Bruges game, obviously, midweek. Before that in the Champions League. And then it's Wolves at the weekend. And then you go to Everton, who are fifth now in the Premier League, another really difficult away game. So you can't feel sorry for yourselves. You just got to go again and see what you can do. Obviously, the injuries are definitely playing a big part. When you look at the context behind that, I'm not going to sit here right now and say, oh, Arsenal wouldn't have lost that game if they had Gabriel and William Saliba, because look, Arsenal had Gabriel and William Saliba when they went to Sunderland a few weeks ago, and they defended pretty poorly at times in that game and looked a little bit edgy and nervy, and they ended up conceded 2 goals in that game with those two at the heart of the defence, and they dropped points in that game. So I don't think you can necessarily look at it and say, look, Saliba and Gabriel in the team yesterday, you don't lose that match. But I think when you look at how it panned out, that when they're so important to this Arsenal team, not just defensively, but also just the way they build up play, how Saliba starts it all off. The two of them there, it does just give you a bit of a safety net. And when you look at some of the joy that Villa had and how they stretched Arsenal yesterday, I do feel like with those centre-backs there, it would have been a more difficult afternoon for Aston Villa. And that's not to say that the players who came in played badly, because I didn't think they did. I didn't think Hincapié played badly. I didn't think Timber played badly. I just think it was a tough game against a really tough opponent in a really difficult place to go, who are flying at the moment, and they caused Arsenal problems, just like they caused Man City problems when they beat them recently at home. And when they basically cause any team they play at home, they beat Bayern Munich at home last season. They beat PSG at home last season, beat PSG very, very well last season at home after having a difficult start to that game. So it's just a difficult place to go. And I think you've got to remember that when you're sort of looking and digging a little bit deeper into the defeat yesterday. On Mosquera's injury, Mikel said he's going to be out for weeks. Unfortunately, it's much more than we expected, but the player was feeling it, so he's going to be out for weeks. And having to rotate the defence due to injuries, I think that was Arsenal's 7th centre-back partnership, different centre-back partnership in the Premier League this season, the 6th or the 7th. He says, it is what it is. We have to cope with that period of time as well, and we know that, and the team is going to have to be able to adapt to it, not look for excuses. Obviously, we know that those two, Gabriel and Saliba, we know what they bring, especially in a game like this. But the other two, Pierre and Jurian, I think were exceptional today as well. So that's what you had to say on the injuries yesterday. These were my player ratings that I went through. Again, I just didn't think it was a bad performance from Arsenal. I think there were some players who underperformed, especially in the first half, and Mikel corrected that with the substitutions at half time. So I thought Marino was totally ineffective up top, looked leggy, didn't look himself. And I thought Eze was really, really poor. So those two players, they were replaced at half time, and I thought Arsenal improved because of that. I thought Trossard obviously made a big, big impact when he came on. I didn't think Gyökeres was great when he came on, but he just gave Villa something different to think about and helped sort of stretch the defence a little bit more than we saw in the first half. But my ratings were Raya, I gave a 7, obviously brilliant save in the first half. Good save in the build up to the winning goal as well. Just so unlucky that the ball ended up breaking for Buendia the way it did. So I gave basically all the centre backs a 7, all the goalkeepers and defence a 7. Although I gave Hincapié 6, I dropped him down to a 6, which I kind of feel a bit bad for doing, because I thought he had a good game, Hincapié, but it was just that error of judgment at the end that proved so costly when he put the ball out through a throw, rather than just clearing your lines with seconds to go. But again, I don't just blame him for that goal, because the ball went off a throw on, and it was about 30 seconds after that they scored. The ball came into the box, Arsenal cleared it, the ball then got worked over to the other side of the box before it came in, and then there was a mad scramble. So there was lots of opportunities for Arsenal to stop that, resulting in a goal. So I don't just say, oh, it was Hincapié's fault that Arsenal scored because he didn't put it out through a throw-in. I gave Rice and Zubimendi 7. Rice was absolutely tireless. Zubimendi was probably closer to a 6.5 than a 7, to be honest. I thought Odegaard had a good game. I saw Odegaard getting some criticism. I mean, he probably could have done better with a couple of shots that he had, put them too close to Martinez. I'm sure he'll probably be pretty disappointed he didn't pick out a corner, at least in one of those shots. He had another really good one from distance that Martinez was saved. He was involved in the goal. I think he got man of the match on TNT, which I think that's pushing it a little bit. I'm sure there was an Aston Villa player who could have justifiably won that rather than Martin Odegaard, although I'm sure the award was probably given out when it was still at 1-1 rather than at 2-1. But I thought he had a good game, Odegaard. I don't understand why it seemed like he was getting a lot of grief. Saka, I gave a 6. Came much more alive in the second half. Saka had his moments in the first half, but was pretty poor in possession. As I said, Eze just a passenger and then really switched off for the goal. Needs to be a lot better than that when he's on the pitch. I know he's moved out to the left-hand side, but he can play that left-hand side role very well, and he can play it certainly a lot better and be a lot more effective than he did yesterday. So I gave him a 4, Marino a 5. Subs who came on, obviously Trossard made a big impact. Could only do half an hour though. Gyökeres and Madueke didn't really make much of an impact when they came on, and Lewis Skelly and Gabriel Martinelli were on right at the end. So those were my player ratings. I thought Calafiori had a good game. He was, especially in the first half when Arsenal were pretty poor. They were definitely better in the second half, but even when they were a bit off colour in the first half, I thought Calafiori still had a good game in that one. For me, I'm going to go over to what some of you guys have been saying now in relation to the result. Thank you as always for getting in touch and sending in your views. Smeeking says, well done, Charles. Another good composed analysis. Don't know how you do it so soon after watching an emotional game like that. You're spot on about it feeling like a game too far. I felt like I'd have taken a 1-1 before this game. I think the most disappointing thing for me was Rice and Odegaard's finishing. These guys should be converting more from the edge of the box. If not, Eze needs to move back inside. Goal threat he brings is much needed. Saka poor again. Should Noni be starting more often now that he's back? Well, if he starts really impressing when he's on the pitch, absolutely. I didn't think Madueke was particularly great when he came on yesterday. I don't think Saka was poor. I don't think he was brilliant by any means, but I thought in that second half when Arsenal really grew into the game, Saka was very influential in that. Nate from New York says, with big Gabby and Saliba out, there's a silver line in the defensive unit that played today, gained invaluable experience toward building cohesion for the next match. It will only help going forward. That being said, do you think Arteta needs to tweak his tactics for the back four until we go back to full strength? I'm not really sure what else he can do when it comes to defence at the moment. He's basically got all the players left that he can use. Obviously, Calafiori is going to be suspended now for the game against Wolves next weekend because of that yellow card that he picked up. So Lewis Skelly, you would imagine, will come in at left back. But other than that, I don't see him going to a back three, for example, and really changing the entire system. So I'm not sure what else he could really do. Natrai says, I was in the home end just behind you. Oh, you're brave. And had to be silent throughout. Absolutely heartbreaking when they scored. The Villa fans scouted me out when obviously I didn't get up when they scored. We have some Arsenal over here. It's one of the worst moments I've ever had at a game. Come on, Arsenal. Let's get them back at the Emirates. Yeah, it's only about 5 games now until we'll play them again. I hate playing Aston Villa. What is it? The voodoo sign they have over us at the moment. Hopefully we can get them back at the Emirates in a few weeks' time, December 30th, I think that is. Mitten Mohan says, for some reason, I was also anticipating a difficult game for us. I mean, the reason you're probably anticipating a difficult game is because Aston Villa have lost once in 32 at home. They're an incredibly difficult team to beat at Villa Park. Incredibly difficult. They don't lose games there. He said, I wasn't surprised when they scored, but we rectified our poor first half with a performance in the second. Eze poor again, raising questions on whether the left wing is his best position. Villa was always trying to exploit the gaps in our defence, with Watkins making several runs, which we couldn't contain throughout the game. Tough string of games for us. Hopefully we'll bounce back soon. Aaron says, as I reflect on our loss to Villa, I want to acknowledge the effort the team put in, even though the team selection and strategy didn't work out as it hoped. Team struggled from the start, the worst performance of the season. I believe recognising their effort can inspire us to support through tough times. I'm not giving up on this team. Still, I think we have a chance to win the EPL this season. Of course we do. We're top. Of course we do. No one should be talking about giving up on this team. Arsenal are top of the Premier League. They're top of the Champions League. They've lost 1 game since September the 1st. And that was a really difficult game yesterday. Yeah, this is a time when the team needs the fans more than anything. It's all well and good when everything's flying and everything's rosy and you're winning games. When you have a little bit of a bad patch, a sticky patch, when you're in a title race, it's when everyone's got to come together, get them back on going again. No one should be talking about giving up on a team. Makes no sense to me. Says the boss knew he'd made a mistake today. The smart changes in the second half showed potential, and our coaching staff is learning and adapting. The decision to experiment with Marino rather than Victor was risky, but it reflects their willingness to try new strategies. I don't think it was risky. I thought it was the right decision to play Marino over Victor. And I also think it was the right decision to change it at half time because it clearly wasn't working in the first half. Dan says, that was heart-wrenching. So many wasted shots straight at Martinez. Almost every time we play him, we seem to be playing with the same problem for decades, not finishing our dinner properly, giving away the ball in dangerous places and proper rotation, causing the players to be tired and injured. We always draw before a loss. It was coming, crushed, man. Players aren't feeding Victor. So how is he going to feel like part of the team? I don't buy that argument of players not feeding Victor. Victor needs to be in a better position for me. I know he's coming back, so I'm going to cut him some slack. But I was disappointed with him not really busting a gut to get into a position to take advantage. When Declan Rice got down that left-hand side, it was right in front of me, and you could see how that play was unfolding. There was only one position that Victor Gyökeres needed to be in to try and get on the end of that, and he just wasn't sprinting. There was no urgency to get to a position where he could potentially get on the end of a cross if it came in. You've got to anticipate better, really do. So I don't buy into the players aren't feeding Victor Gyökeres. I really, really don't. But look, it's only his second substitute appearance in a while, so he is going to be off the pace a little bit. So I'm not going to criticize him too much for that. I just would like to have seen a little bit more of a little bit more urgency to try and get into a position to take advantage of that cross from Declan Rice on the left-hand side. Scott says, like you said, Charles, we can't win them all. It was a great game to watch. Both teams played great, and we were just unlucky the way it ended. The point would have been fair, but we get back up, brush it off, and go again. Premier League is strong this season for one team to walk away with it, but we definitely need our main centre-backs back. Elizabeth says, tough to lose a game like that. Try not to be negative, but the away form is concerning. Semi-understandable given who we've had to play, their position in the league and the time we've played them, plus injuries. I don't want to see Zubimendi or Rice anywhere near the pitch in midweek, maybe even at the weekend, but that's another story. Thanks for the content. Simon says, I love this team, proud of everything we've done, especially with the injuries. Is this Champions League game more important now after Saturday's result? No, it's not. Not in my view, it's not. These players are absolutely dead on their feet. You could see it at the end yesterday. You really, really could. So no, I don't want to see. Look, he'll play some. He's not going to make 11 changes, I don't think. But I think you've got to rest some players. There's some players crying out for a rest. What's the point of signing Christian Norgard if he's not going to play on Wednesday night away at Bruges in a game which doesn't really mean that much? Give at least one of Zubimendi and Rice a rest. At least one of them in that game. Play Norgard. It's why you signed him. For me, Warwick says, tough loss, but I think the big difference yesterday was how each team approached the match. Felt like Villa treated it as a cup final. Started 5 midfielders and no true wingers. They were time wasting consistently, kicking every ball. For Arsenal, they just looked knackered from basically the first minute. Were forced to push through until full time. Those last 5 matches are probably the toughest stretch this season. I think Bruges and Wolves coming up, the whole squad will be utilised more, and fatigued players will have a lot of time to recharge. Just finally, one from Rob says, now is not the time to panic and overreact. I think we need to keep a little perspective from our starting 11 in the last 3 games. We've had 2 of the best centre-backs, our most informed left winger, and both of our strikers. That's like Liverpool being without Van Dijk, Konate, Gakpo, Isaka, and Ekitike, or City being without Diaz, Guardiola, Doku, Haaland, and Mamouche. How would they cope with those players without those players? You just can't take those players out of the starting lineup and not expect the level to drop. We need our injured players back ASAP. I agree with that. We definitely do. And you're right. It's impossible not to expect the standards to drop a little bit with those sort of injuries to such key players, especially when you're playing the type of games that Arsenal had to play in the last few weeks. And I think up until yesterday, they managed it well. They got through it well. And yesterday just was one game too far. It could have gone their way. It didn't. It went the other way. Got to lick our wounds and get ready to go again. And that is it from me today, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Do try and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again as we start to gear towards another big week, Champions League week, and then Wolves at the Emirates on Saturday. Bye-bye.